Cool. Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. I'm your host, Jeevan Toki. So today I'm joined by Jess Rendon, CEO of Cointree. Welcome, Jess.
Thanks, Jeeves. It's a pleasure to be here. It's been a long time since we've done a webinar, actually.
It has. So Jess, bit of an intro. I suppose we worked together at BGL for, I think, a bit over 12 years.
Yes, that's
Many years
right.
ago, and now you're obviously part of Cointree. So maybe explain to the audience who is Cointree.
Yeah, thanks, Jeeves. And yes, our 2005 days of starting at BGL feels like many, many moons ago now. But no, thank you. Well, for those of you who I don't know, I'm Jess. I'm CEO of Cointree. Cointree is an Australian digital assets or cryptocurrency exchange. Yeah, today I'm really looking forward to being able to take you through a little bit about where crypto is currently sitting in the ecosystem at the moment and some regulatory changes, and also how, I guess, our audience today can look into crypto or best support their clients as well. So I can run through a little bit more about Cointree, I guess, yeah, in a moment.
Sure. So for today's webinar will be recorded. So if you do drop out at any stage, the recording will be available on BGL's YouTube channel, and a link will be emailed to all attendees. If you have any questions throughout today, please enter them into the Q&A panel, and Jess and I will cover those questions at the end. But I think, Jess, over to yourself.
Fantastic. Thanks, Jeeves. All right, so just a quick disclaimer before we get started that everything in this webinar is considered general information only. It's not considered financial advice. So please ensure that obviously you read through the disclaimer and seek your own advice accordingly. All right, a little bit about us. So, as I mentioned, Cointree is an Australian digital currency exchange, and we've actually been around since 2013. We're one of Australia's longest serving exchanges, which for me is a pretty proud achievement, being in the industry now 12 years. And you don't get that every day. And it's something that as a business we're really, really proud of. So, what we do, we make crypto accessible to everyone. And that is from individuals to SMSF, business, corporate accounts, high net wealth. And we also offer support to accountants, financial planners, and those alike as well, who are trying to just work out that world of cryptocurrency for their clients. What we do, we obviously we provide nearly 150 different assets that are available as well. And I guess just for clarity, obviously, you've got Bitcoin and Ethereum and XRP and USDT. So there's some of the really main coins. But for those that are interested, there's actually thousands of assets available. For Cointree, we offer around 150 assets that are available to our customers. We also provide bullion gold as well, which for clarification isn't tokenized gold. It's actually bullion title gold. And we also offer an Australian stable coin too, which I'll touch on later. We have worked with over 100,000 Aussies that are signed up onto our platform. And my mission, and I guess this is also part of my background from being ex-BGL over my years, my passion for Cointree has always been aligning the more traditional finance sector, and particularly SMSFs, with the crypto space. And we've actually been supporting SMSFs on the platform since 2018. Now, we're going to run a quick poll because I'd just love to understand who in our audience, I guess, is an accountant, financial advisor, a planner, and actual SMSF trustees as well. So I'll give you a minute to quickly answer that if you don't mind. It'll best help me tailor this for everyone today. Okay, great. We've got a lot of accountants, which I thought so. Fantastic. It's interesting because from coming from both sides as well, we will cover off content that's relevant for accountants. We will also touch on a little bit as well for the actual trustees too. All right, I think that's nearly everyone who wants to answer. All right, great.
Over there.
All right, fantastic. So, large percentage of accountants, fabulous. And then I've just got one more poll from there. So, for those that obviously are representing an accounting firm, I'd love to understand if you or your clients actually hold crypto with an SMSF. So, I don't know, Jeeves, if you could bring that one up as well.
Yes, technical difficulties, but
And the reason why I'd like to understand this as well is because I really am quite keen to ensure that what we cover off today is relevant to our audience. And 'cause I do know crypto can obviously be quite a speculative part of conversations, particularly in our traditional finance world. So um, here we go. Great. Thank you, everyone. I know we all love a good poll question. No, great. All right. Lots of yeses. That's what I want to hear. All right, and for those who are considering it as well, hopefully you do find today informative. And for those that are a no, hopefully we can persuade you as well. Okay, I'll keep running through. So I just want to quickly touch on how cryptocurrency sits with respect to traditional assets, and along with the current statistics on how many adults actually hold cryptocurrency. And it's obviously an important thing to note that obviously you have to be over 18 to acquire cryptocurrency. And so the statistics now are actually 31% of Aussies hold crypto. If I look back 5 years ago, back to 2020, it was actually only 18%. So within 5 years, that's actually nearly doubled, which is crazy. Um, but then when you actually compare cryptocurrency and where it actually sits with our traditional investments, obviously you've got global real estate, equities, and gold. It's actually only still sitting at 3.4 trillion, which is still really small. But for me, that actually shows the opportunity compared to traditional assets and traditional investment classes on how far crypto actually has to go. And I guess just to cover off, cryptocurrency still has maturity, and we'll touch on that later on today with upcoming regulation as well. But it's really important to see where crypto sits in the standing of our traditional assets. And over 20,000 SMSFs actually now hold over 1 billion in crypto. Again, when I was having these conversations about 5 years ago, that was significantly lower. And what this shows, it shows that obviously Aussies are now looking to diversify slightly with their portfolio. And for me, I think, diversification, this is my personal view as well, obviously not advice. I run an SMSF as well. I think having a small amount of exposure to different types of assets can actually be quite good. But for me, it's interesting to now see that carry over with lots of SMSFs and particularly SMSFs that are on our platform as well. So, for those of you that are wanting to support your clients with cryptocurrency in their portfolio, I'm sure everyone here knows how this all works, but I just want to quickly go over it in some really simple steps, and particularly for trustees that are wanting to also look to diversify. As you know, obviously, your trust deed that needs to be updated to allow cryptocurrency investments as part of your investment strategy. So obviously, when you're going through that process, whether you're on the accounting financial planner side and or on the actual trustee side, that's critical before that investment takes place. I say that because I'll touch on onboarding with an exchange later on in the presentation. But what we actually check as well is to ensure that obviously trust deeds have been updated appropriately before you can invest. So that's really important. And what I will caution here as well is ensuring that obviously you do seek independent advice when you build that and put that into your portfolio strategy accordingly from an expert. Your holdings must be in your fund's name. Now, over the years, I have seen that many people sign up to Cointree and obviously have an individual account, which is great. And then they've gone, oh, hang on, I now want to have an SMSF account, and how does that work? Well, to be really clear, obviously, you need to ensure that everything is segregated accordingly. Now, I know accountants would obviously know this, making sure that your individuals obviously have separate accounts. But with an exchange, not all exchanges actually operate in this way. And it's really important to align yourself with a business that knows how to segregate things appropriately. And so for Cointree, we've got customers that have an individual, but also then have a completely separate account under their SMSF or trustee name. And the way that we validate that is we actually check your source of funds. And that's something that is really critical when it also comes to compliance measures from actually an AML perspective, but also from ensuring that, the funds are coming from the actual bank account and the source bank account from the SMSF. What we do, we have two separate logins, two separate email addresses, so you can log into your different accounts respectively, and then your wallets are separate too. And what I mean by wallets, and for those of you who might be a little bit newer to cryptocurrency today, when you acquire cryptocurrency, you then get given a wallet address. So on the platform, so on Cointree, you decide, okay, I'm going to spend $20 and I'm going to buy $20 worth of Bitcoin today. We will populate a Bitcoin wallet address for you. And when you do that as an individual and a trustee, we ensure that they are separate wallet addresses because that's obviously required when you've got your ATO reporting, auditing of your fund, and making sure that your assets are completely segregated from your own personal interests. And so we do that for all the cryptocurrency assets that we offer. We also support for our customers should they not want to hold their assets on the exchange. And again, just for the clarification point for people who might be new today, and cryptocurrency exchanges, we operate similarly to a bank. We hold and store your assets, and we take custody of those for you, but you also have the option to self-custody as well. And what that means is that you have the ability to withdraw your cryptocurrency from the platform and hold it in either what we would refer to as a cold storage device, which is a little cold storage wallet, which is completely offline and it's a little device that you can send your crypto to, or you might choose to send it to a different type of wallet as well. And what's also important is that obviously working with someone that is able to provide you with your end of year reporting, which I know as accountants and financial planners, it's important to understand how to value your assets, and particularly for clients that do invest in crypto. Cointree, we're actually the first integration with BGL, so the first crypto exchange integrated with Simple Fund 360 to make your reporting easier to be able to import all the transactions from Cointree into Simple Fund 360 so you can provide that valuation process. We also provide daily prices as well to be able to help value your asset. It's an aggregated price from around the top 10 exchanges to give you a valuation for your cryptocurrency. At Cointree, we provide monthly holding statements, regular tax reporting, and all of your order and transaction history as well. And yeah, obviously having our integration with BGL is really important to us. When we look at asset diversification, and I thought this was quite an interesting stat, the majority of assets that we actually see on platform are Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is still a major holding asset within our clientele. But it's interesting to see the breakdown is that Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP is technically accounted for around 77% of all holdings, which we actually saw in the SMSF advisor stats recently. And it's a really interesting breakdown because Bitcoin has been the primary asset that we've seen SMSFs diversify into for quite a long time. But it's really interesting to also see Ethereum and XRP now getting some exposure as well. And it just shows that Australians are now starting to look a little bit outside from Bitcoin as well. I want to quickly jump to the regulatory developments because I think some accountants will also find this really interesting today. So I guess I won't dig into AUSTRAC's Tranche 2 updates, but I'm sure, and if those of you that aren't prepared yet, Tranche 2 AUSTRAC changes are obviously affecting the accounting industry as well. And just to summarize, that is putting the requirement on accountants and financial planners to obviously KYC, so ID and identify your customer accordingly. I do love that obviously BGL have now added some more diversification with their product suite to have BGL ID, which will obviously help you through that process as well. But it's really important because as from a crypto lens, that's actually been our what we've been required to do since the beginning of 2018. So all cryptocurrency exchanges are actually required to ID and verify their customers before you can even create your account. And so being familiar with that is really important. But what I do want to touch on is actually some upcoming regulation that is actually forming for exchanges. It's been long awaited, and I do say this with my own personal view as well, that ASIC have now put out guidance in their Info 225 sheet that now states that digital currency exchanges or digital asset providers, they call us DApps, will be required to have an AFSL license and submit applications by 30 June 2026. This is a first for Australia. So for those of you that don't know, Australian crypto exchanges aren't required to have an AFSL, and obviously that's where your challenge does come in when you're trying to provide advice or information about crypto assets as well, is that cryptocurrency still is not deemed as a financial product. It's technically treated as property at the moment. But within the next now, well, nearly 6 months, any operator in Australia will be required to be submitting their application for a relevant license that suits the way that their business works. And so the typical conversations that have been taking place in industry are that digital asset providers are required to apply for a non-cash payments AFSL license for retail, and we're a retail operating exchange. So for their retail customers, we'll need to submit those applications by next year. This for me is fantastic. We've been wanting to have regulation in the industry for a really long time. Having additional consumer protection and consumer coverage is only going to help cryptocurrency become more mainstream, which is really, really important. And I also think it will wheedle out some of the perhaps some, we'll say, less legitimate actors in the space. And coming from someone who's been in the Australian landscape for such a long time, it's going to be a really big, big switch for Australian exchanges. Um, we've also had ASIC have put through some updates as well for cryptocurrency exchanges by the end of March next year, which actually reflects on what's called a travel rule. And I thought it would be interesting to cover this off as well because as we collect identification data for customers, digital asset providers will then be required to actually obtain information as to who the beneficiary is of the cryptocurrency. And I know there's probably a lot of people here today who are, maybe making point that cryptocurrency can be used for all different types of things. It hasn't been a requirement to date to be able to know the beneficiary or the recipient and when cryptocurrency is being sent to. As digital, I guess, as a digital asset provider, we have tracking tools. We actually track every crypto transaction that comes and goes from our platform. And our AML and KYC obligations are obviously very onerous from AUSTRAC. And that is to also help have customer protection as well. And so where we're coming to for 2026, it's a really, really big regulatory year. But it's something that the industry has needed for quite some time. And so I encourage you to look at the updated guidance and information that's come out, because having a look from ASIC and AUSTRAC's websites, specifically, that's where the information is provided. We can provide some links to that after this as well. So based off that, and I understand the challenge because again, this has been the SMSF and accounting world has been my life for quite some time, nearly 20 years. Um, I would love to run a poll to understand that if exchanges obviously held AFSLs, would that actually make your conversations easier? And this is more from a general interest side of things because I understand that it's very hard. You can't offer advice. It's not a financial product. So in the event that exchanges actually had AFSLs and you had your financial product statements and you actually had something to refer back to with your product disclosure statements and everything like that, would that make your conversations easier? So I'll just give everyone a little bit of time to answer this. And again, I understand you don't have all the information yet, so it's just curiosity, but I'd just be interested. Yeah, it's a lot of unsures. That's okay. It's going to be really interesting to see how the frameworks get built as well. Um, we're nearly there. It's a very popular conversation. We recently were at the Australian CryptoCon convention, which is a huge retail-based convention for anyone interested in crypto. And the majority of our conversations were actually with SMSFs, which I was super excited about. And a lot of them have come to us and said, but my accountant or my financial planner won't give me advice. And this is where I'm hopeful in the event that obviously, appropriate Australian exchanges can receive this and actually obtain their AFSLs, that will make your lives easier as well. Um, It's an interesting split between yes and then unsure and too early to tell. I will share some of that information to you, although the Info 225 sheet is quite long. But we'll provide some of those links after this webinar as well, so you can have a read through. I personally think this will make everyone's lives a little bit easier because you'll have legislation and actual, proper guidance to be able to fall back on as well. So when I talk about our case studies and what things look like from the Cointree exchange lens. So as operating as a cryptocurrency exchange, obviously we've got a myriad of different customers. But when we look towards SMSFs, we have seen a substantial upswing since 2018. The jump between 2020 and 2021 was nearly 200%. And we saw the same again in the beginning of 2025. We've seen the exposure to cryptocurrency assets nearly double when it comes to our SMSF applications. And I guess this is the importance of staying informed and knowing how to have those conversations and who you can actually partner with as well to be educated, because we're constantly seeing inquiries coming through about how do I establish an SMSF? I want to have that exposure in my SMSF. Who do I talk to about it? And those conversations are coming to us really regularly now. And so for us, when you look at the demographic switch as well, and I'm sure those of you that are here today as well, a typical demographic for us initially with SMSFs was much more in that it's nearing retirement age and then obviously retirement age as well. But in the last couple of years, we have seen that age demographic switch drastically. And that's coming down further now to those that are looking perhaps in their mid 30s to early 40s as well, really wanting to establish their own SMSF and then have that exposure into crypto. We typically see on average between 2 to 10%. I know it's a big range, but that's the conversations that we've had with SMSFs where some of them have a really small exposure. And I do believe the ATO recommendations are that it shouldn't be any greater than 10%. But we see a myriad of customers. But the age demographics, which is actually really, really interesting because I think Australians in general, and it actually doesn't have, it's not just specific to cryptocurrency. Australians in general are actually looking to take hold of their own retirement. I'm sure as accountants and financial planners, a lot of you have seen that as well. And I know I have those conversations too, even with my team. They're all wanting to be able to take hold of their retirement early and choose what they invest in, compared to obviously having that in a retail fund. When we look at the assets that they hold, and I know I touched on the stats from SMSF Advisor earlier in the webinar, but Bitcoin is still held big. I'd say about 90% of our SMSF customers hold Bitcoin. And we notice when it comes to their actual investment and trading behavior, and again, I'm just speaking generally across the board, we notice that typically when an SMSF onboards, they'll then acquire the assets that they want and then they'll hold. It's very common behavior to see buying up of the appropriate assets and then holding and hanging on. But in 2025, when Bitcoin hit its all-time high, we actually saw a lot of liquidation. We saw from and this is also from an individual perspective as well. We saw a liquidation of assets where our customers were actually taking gains. And again, obviously, you understand that, that every time there's a transaction when it comes to cryptocurrency, there's obviously CGT. We've got tax reporting that supports, obviously the information you need to be able to go through that process, but it does obviously trigger a CGT event. And what's important is that, the SMSF customers realize that too. To talk to this as well, and just to quickly segue from a case study, all the Australian exchanges do report to the ATO annually. So we provide all of our data, all of our transaction data and customer data to the ATO annually. And that obviously then populates within the tax returns when you obviously see, do you have a cryptocurrency, have you traded cryptocurrency this year? That will then populate that in your client's tax return as well. I am proud to say that Cointree were actually one of the founding groups that we actually helped guide the ATO on that guidance back from 2018 and 2019 as well, just to be able to help them support the Australian ecosystem, but also to be able to ensure that, this is getting reported properly on tax. When we look at this as well, 2025 has been a big year, and we have seen customers from that buy and hold. We actually have seen those liquidation events. Um, we have SMSFs who liquidate their crypto and then they're wanting to maybe reinvest that into property because they've made gains. And so it's really interesting to see that change. Um, we also have customers at dollar cost average as well, which you can set up automatically in the platform, and you can just have credit in your account and your trades go through on whatever frequency you'd like to have that set. So we also get asked a question on how SMSFs actually set up accounts on an exchange. I'm going to just quickly, it's very straightforward of how to onboard with Cointree, but it's similar with some of the other exchanges as well. But obviously we've been supporting SMSF since 2018, so we've tried to make the experience really, really easy for SMSFs to onboard. We obviously you create a standard login account at cointree.com, and then you'll be able to select SMSF as your portfolio type, and you'll need to go through the KYC process. And that's what I touched on earlier, which again, as accountants and financial planners, you're all going to be getting exposed to needing to actually KYC your own customer yourselves. But that's where we obviously go through PEPs and sanctions screen. We actually check the ID. So we actually check the identification document that gets uploaded. We do address checks. We actually check superannuation records as well. So we actually run through a myriad of checks for our customers. And then we put them through what's called a liveness test, I don't know if anyone has gone through this before, but you actually hold up your phone and you actually do a liveness test where you turn your head, say a few words, and what this actually does is actually helps prove your identity. I'm sure there's a lot of you out there as well who goes, what about AI generated images and things like that. And it's actually our job to work through mitigating those types of things. And so that's why we have a KYC process that customers can onboard. We check that you are who you say you are, and then you get to submit some information on your SMSF, and then we set up the account for you from there. And then you make a deposit. So you deposit obviously from your appropriate bank account to the SMSF. Obviously, some banks are more friendly than others with crypto. I won't go through specifics, but obviously there are some banks who have been very public in not supporting crypto across Australia, across the industry. So obviously that depends with, I guess, who you bank with. But depositing funds into your Cointree account, and then you're able to start trading. And every trade, like I said, has a transaction order history and invoice accordingly, where you're able to provide that information to your accountant and also import those into Simple Fund 360. Market trends moving forward. Something really exciting, and it's actually news that we released last week, is that Australian stablecoins are coming into the ecosystem. And there are only two licensed, and that obviously meaning that they have an AFSL and they're also approved via ASIC as well. There's only two licensed stablecoins in Australia at the moment. We're proud to have gone live at the end of last week with AUDF. We're the first retail exchange to do that. And it's only the beginning for stable coins. So stable coins in Australia are obviously backed one-to-one with the Aussie dollar, and it's actually a really good way for those who are wanting to dip their toe into I guess, the digital economy market rather than it being necessarily cryptocurrency as well. Having small exposure to being able to acquire a digital asset such as an Australian stable coin, we've actually noticed is something that has been really of interest to our customers as well. And so acquiring a UDF and an Australian stablecoin, you can easily convert that across to fiat, being Aussie dollars. And you can also then trade that to crypto as well. So you can, buy Bitcoin or Ethereum, whatever your choice is. And we do find that, this has actually been a really, really interesting one for us, and a question that's been asked of us for quite some time. And so we're quite proud to have gone live with that last week. SMSFs are also looking for onshore custody and security. And so it's really important to understand who you partner with, and or who you use to trade with as an SMSF, because some overseas exchanges operate with different overseas practices and requirements. And I can say of the Aussie exchanges, those that are Aussie owned, have Australian onshore custody, which we do as well. And that's important knowing where your assets actually are. Because a lot of the time, there's lots of questions as to who holds them, where they are. I'm also a director as well, for Cointree, and so we take custody and security really, really carefully. Exchanges are focusing on audit ready and enhanced tax reporting. And so we've had some general reporting available for quite some time, but I will say that we are further enhancing our reporting and also our access for accountants too. But you'll notice a lot of the Aussie exchanges are building out their reporting to help you with your audit requirements as well. Obviously, there's general information available too on the ATO website. But when it comes to auditing, exchanges should be able to provide you with all your relevant data so that you can ensure that the asset is held by the SMSF and in the name of the SMSF accordingly. AI inclusion. AI has been the word of the year, I think. And I've definitely seen BGL putting it out as well with lots of AI triggers. And it's something that can be used well. It can be something that can be heavily abused too. But where we sit at Cointree, we actually provide some AI market indicators which help customers just see where the market's going. I will caveat it's certainly not financial advice. We're just providing information to our customers so they can actually see how volatile the market is because I think everyone on this webinar can agree that it's really important to be educated and know what you're investing in before you take that step. And so we're just trying to provide as many tools that we can and make that information available so that traders can understand where the market's sitting. Digital asset development. So, many of us here would be investing in property, traditional stocks, and where digital assets are going, they're actually becoming tokenized. And so, what that means is that we're actually tokenizing real world assets, property, government bonds. The RBA are actually running pilots at the moment with tokenized bonds. It's only the beginning of a digital future. And I know many of us here might be like, okay, why would I look to do that? But why wouldn't you want to have your digital asset portfolio exposed to all different types of options if you can acquire them that way? Also, as I mentioned at the beginning of this webinar, we also provide the ability for all of our customers to actually get titled gold digitally. It's not a token. Just want to make that really clear. It's not tokenized gold. It is bullion gold through a partner of ours at Rush Gold, and our SMSF customers really love to have that access as well. And so digital assets are building out to be much more than just cryptocurrency. And then working with a regulatory ready exchange. As I mentioned, exchanges are going to be required to submit their AFSL licensing applications by 30 June next year. So ensuring that you're partnering with appropriate firms is really important. So my key takeaways. Crypto is becoming mainstream. And I know I've had lots of conversations with many in the industry who perhaps don't look at crypto as kindly, but it's becoming mainstream, it's becoming legitimized, and it's definitely an investment choice for individuals and for trustees. Your compliance needs are manageable as long as you have the right structure and you partner with the right type of business to support you along the way. And that's where Cointree is coming in to obviously, help support businesses where we can, to help you on your journey. Regulation, it's building, it's forming. Australian consumers are going to have greater confidence and hopefully comfort that when they are trading with an exchange, that they have the appropriate licensing and that coverage as well. But your knowledge is key. Educating yourselves is really, really important. And that's what we try to do at Cointree. We try to provide one-on-one sessions where you're even able to come out to your office and just give you general crypto information so you can understand what crypto is, how it works, how an exchange works. So you actually get to understand the inner workings of businesses like ours so we can best support you and your clients. But it's always important to ensure that you do seek independent advice when you are looking to invest accordingly into crypto. And yeah, Aussie owned. Aussie owned, Aussie custody, Aussie support. And that's where I'll leave my that's where I will leave you there. We're Aussie born and bred. We've got a Melbourne-based team. We have a phone number. You can call our team. I being that ex-BGL, ex-BGL, I learned a lot over my years. And we want to be there to support. We want to be there to support accountants and and financial planners along the way. You can choose whatever exchange you want to work with. To be frank, we just want to be there to help get you the information so you know where to go. So, Jeevan's popped the poll up here. I'm more than welcome for a member of myself or the team to be able to reach out and give you more information. As I mentioned as well, we are happy to pop out as well. If you've got a small practice and you want to have a crypto one-on-one, couple of hours session, we're more than happy to do that as well, just to get that interest and that information into your firms. And again, I promise you it won't be a sales pitch. It'll just be information from hopefully someone that you get to know and work with. As everyone's filling out that poll, those SMSFs and trustees that are on the call today, um, we do have an offer for SMSFs and trustees specifically as well, where we're sending out a little welcome pack and a hardware wallet as well to help our SMSFs learn how to self-custody. So you can use the code, and again, we'll be able to provide some of this information post the webinar as well. But we would love to have SMSFs sign up and work accordingly with us. And as I mentioned to the accountants and financial planners in the room, again, education, organizing that call with myself or the team, so we can help inform you. That's what we're offering through today. And that's me wrapping it up on time as well, Jeeves, which I'm which I'm
There you
quite
go.
happy
Very
with.
impressed. Very impressed. Definitely. I've got a few questions coming through, so if you're happy to answer.
Sure,
So
sure.
we've got one from Dean, which is probably more a comment. I think it was on your earlier slide where you had the four things related around investing in SMSFs for crypto, and it's just a reminder that obviously the investment strategy must be updated, and crypto
Yes.
must obviously be an asset form part of the investment strategy.
Yes. Yes. That's very
Um,
important.
Question here from Michael. Is there a way to arrange an off-market transfer of coins between an individual name and SMSF, or do the coins need to be sold and then reacquired?
Are you looking to transfer possession of those, or are they already in the name of the SMSF?
I
Just
think
for
it's an
clarification.
individual name, judging by the question.
Yeah, okay. Yes. So this is actually a really tricky one. And again, I can't give the financial advice around this, but we've definitely had the question before, when a customer's had it in their individual name and then want to move that across the SMSF. I can't give advice on that, unfortunately. What I can say is, though, is that once we've had customers that have set up their accounts appropriately and updated their investment strategy and had those conversations with their advisors, we're then able to facilitate assets moving to a different wallet between Cointree. But again, we obviously need to ensure that appropriate paperwork's been done as well, and the ownership is very clear of who owns those assets. But I would recommend seeking advice.
Yeah, so no, I think also um, check the regulations because I suppose with off-market, with a lot of in-specie transfers, I
Yeah,
think there is limitations in terms of the types of assets that can be transferred as well. So
yeah,
crypto might fall in that grey area potentially,
yeah,
but I would definitely be mindful of that. That law, obviously not trying to avoid CGT or anything as well. So.
100%. Yes.
Question there, oh no, to answer that one there. Is it possible to arrange a transfer of crypto assets from another exchange to Cointree?
Yes, it is. Yeah. So all exchanges should provide the ability for you to withdraw your assets. And the way that it works is you can go from that respective exchange. And once you've set up a Cointree account, you can then create a wallet for that asset that you're looking to deposit into your Cointree account. And then you'll be able to copy that wallet address and send it over from the existing exchange over into Cointree, and then your wallet, your balance will update instantly. And that's the beauty of the blockchain as well, is that all the transactions are obviously, they're irreversible, but they're transparent. You can see it happen in real time and it happens within seconds. So yes, you can, and our support team can assist you with that process.
Cool. So this will be question here for Michelle. Are SMSF trustees required to have insurance on a crypto investment?
I actually don't know. That's a really good question. And I'm actually not too sure. Crypto exchanges, some offer insurance as well, potentially as a separate product. It's something that we've looked into at Cointree as well. Um, but I'm actually not sure. Sorry that I can't answer that one. Again,
I
conscious
wouldn't
of
think so
financial
because
advice. Yeah.
Yeah, in your case, you take care of
Yeah,
the storage of it. I think the biggest requirement would be if you've got cold storage and you're storing it yourself, that obviously it's meeting uh,
yeah.
requirements of independence. But I'd say if you're going through Cointree, then no, you would.
Yeah, yeah. And again, to talk to like the cold wallet and the custody practices at an exchange, they need to be operated at a very, very senior and secure level as well. Many of the exchanges operate in a similar way where they'll have their customer access assets within a third-party custodian. And then some will also operate what we also have as a cold wallet as well, dependent on, I guess how the operating practices work. And that's actually governed by boards as well. So it's governed by the board of directors and also executive levels in businesses as well. The protections around custody and customer assets is very, very, it's very, very big within the crypto landscape.
Perfect. I think that's all the questions we've had, Jess. So
Fantastic.
thank you very much for that presentation. I thought it was excellent, and hopefully the audience got something out of it. Just a reminder
Yeah.
that we will send a copy of the recording to everyone, and you've got Jess's details there, which will be sent to everyone as well. So thank you, Jess.